Yo, 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 yo. What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Return of the NFL Talk podcast, episode number 7. Obviously, we've got to put this off for a while, and it's good to be back talking some NFL football for the first time. It felt like a first time in months. So we got a lot of stuff, interesting stuff, really kind of talk about, at the same time. But before we get into it, if you guys are new to the channel, make sure you hit the like button. Also hit that subscribe button. If you share this out on all social media platforms, no matter what you use. And that being said, let's kind of get right into it. So, obviously, with the season coming around, before we get into the topics at hand, it's going to be actually kind of nice to actually get back to talking some NFL football. So like the news, reports, a little bit of some game action as well. Uh, Arco, we'll get to. I'll talk about that Dak and Justin in just a bit because actually it's going to be interesting. Interesting thing. I would say. Um, but overall, though, I really do like how excited to see what some of these teams are. Well, besides my Eagles, by the way, it's just see who's going to be the most improved on the most improved side, or who's going to be the complete hot garbage end of things. But regardless, the first thing, obviously, the expectations going in depending on who's your team. If it's like my Eagles, the Cowboys, if you're talking a team that's a consistent over 500 type of 500 team, you really don't have that much expectations. But if you're got teams like the Texans, who I still think I think they're going to be the most somewhat improved team in that week AFC South, because I don't know if the Titans are going to be as anything as well. Let's realize consistent or not even that good. I mean, not to mention the fact that you always had. Now, there's been before training camp started, there's always or during actually scratch that. The fact that when training camp was getting underway, I've been reading a lot of stuff that the Tennessee Titans have no faith in either Malik Willis or Will Levis, and I'm thinking to myself, why the hell did you even draft Will Levis for? We know you don't know what you have Malik Willis and the Colts. Well, we'll get to the Colts in just a minute. It makes you. I think Tennessee Titans fans got to be freaking like so mind boggled to the fact that said, look, you either you go Malik Willis or Will Levis. The fact that you still don't know what you have in Will Levis or Malik Willis, and that's concerning. That's like I said, that's one of the concerning things that I would see with the Tennessee Titans, and the fact that there's also been, prior to training camp, always been like these like rumors and reports saying, that Derrick Henry is open to, or the Tennessee Titans are open to trading Derrick Henry in a certain way. Well, regardless, though, I do think expectations. It depends on, like I said, it depends on who you're asking. And going to the Colts, since Arcudi, you want to bring up the Colts? Yeah, for me, low expectations, easy. The fact you're going to try to scam Jonathan Taylor, which I'm pretty much sure he's going to be out. Your quarterback problem, has less to be desired, because Anthony Richardson, I don't know what you have in him, because from what I've been hearing from a lot of other people, that AR-15 is pretty much really a raw prospect. And honestly, him declaring early in his freshman year was, I kind of went in a way, I would think, I think that was kind of a mistake, by Anthony Richardson. And the way I say that, because it's like, first of all, look, the dude's got the tools, but I think he could at least stayed another year or two to get better as a quarterback. But yikes! By the looks of it looks like Gardner Minshew is going to be your quarterback. And quite honestly, for someone who's seen him a lot with Gardner Minshew, that's fucking crazy. But still, yeah, it's like they still like you got two teams. Well, Colts, boy, jeez. I mean, to put the Colts season in perspective, I don't see them being. I mean, if you're lucky, you could probably get at least a 7-10 season out of the Colts. Like I said, that AFC South is so wide open. You got the Jags, who I think who is going to be even improving even more. and you got the Houston Texans. Now, the Texans, yes, for the longest time, has always been no, it's got, I would say, the laughing stock with the AFC South. Yes, like I said, that's not really saying much. But seeing what the Texans have done, now I have a new head coach at D'Amico Ryans. No, phenomenal defensive player for during his time. But getting your franchise quarterback, well, which is about time because man, no one wants to really sit well. Yeah, the Texans will be better than last year. That is absolutely for sure. I mean, I think the quarterback play is going to be much improved. Now, yes, you're going to go through some growing pains for CJ Stroud, but if you looked at CJ Stroud's tape at Ohio State, I mean, I think you can pretty much get if he can produce as advertised or where you got him. I think that'll be a nice little hit by the Texans, and not to mention you also traded for Will Anderson Jr. at number 3 overall, which is fucking insane. Now, yes, there are some players that need to step up, and actually be better. Kenyon Green's a perfect example because boy, he was how do I say this? Like very disappointing on that offensive line. Now, I do think with the with all the new coaching staff that I would see that I could imagine D'Amico Ryans brought in, I definitely would help out with Kenyon Green's development. So I do think Kenyon Green was going to take him a step forward. If Jalen Petrie can stay healthy, same with Derek Stingley Jr., just to name a few, especially on that defensive side. And that's a solid defense right then and there. I mean, it's going to take some time, but I still think that Jags still run that division, until, what's going on, Raph? But yeah, really showing that the Texans, look, I don't think the Texans are going to win the division by any stretch of the means, but I do think they're going to at least try to make a push to win that AFC South over the Jacksonville Jaguars. So, like I said, I do think that that Jags team is going to be the team to beat in the AFC South. And like I said before, and I'll say this again, it's not really saying much in terms of, of competition, shall we say. But that besides the point, it's going to be interesting to see where some of these other teams lie. What the Packers are going to be looking like under Jordan Love for the first time. If the Chicago Bears are going to take a step forward, improving. To be quite honest, I do think the Bears are going to improve slightly because I still can't trust that offensive line to protect Justin Fields. Now, if you're asking me what the record prediction is, I'll probably say 5-12 through a 17 game season. I still think they're going to move at least. Like, I still think they still got more work to do on that offensive line because, like I said, I can't trust it. And for those who have not seen well, you gotta think. Oh, Arco, you're going 7-10, 8-9 for the Bears. That's kind of bold, but like I said, it's the offensive line that does. Well, actually, no, not just the offensive line. Someone actually brought this to my attention. It was also Chase Claypool is also where I had my issues with as well. If Chase Claypool cannot go, hey, look. The benefit for Bears fans is at least you don't have to worry about Aaron Rodgers. So that's the plus. But yeah, the Packers, like I said, I don't think not really. Like I said, you still got some slightly glaring problems. Wide receiver 3 and Chase Claypool. If he can't stay healthy, cut your losses with him. I mean, I did like you picked up Marcedes Lewis and Yannick Ngakoue, for especially Ngakoue for the edge rushers, which I do think your defense. I almost say this: the Bears' defense was actually was a pretty good defense, but unfortunately, just some of them just can't stay healthy. Eddie Jackson was another one. Well, most probably just couldn't stay healthy. But like I said, the only two glaring problems I see, and that's the we're thing right to Arku, and I do think they're going to have that at least close to it in DJ Moore. If you're, because I do think Justin Fields is going to take a step forward as a passer, but the O line for me needs to especially block his blind side at times. And it's the way that I look at it. Because look, I do think the Bears are gonna have some really nice talent this year, but I still think they have to find a way to, improve. Let's be real, reinforce that offensive line. just to protect Justin Fields because, boy, boy, it's then again, and I know why. I've seen even especially when you looked at the Bengals the first time in Joe Burrow's rookie year, unfortunately, where how that really turned out. And that was kind of crazy besides the point. But I mean, I still think the Bears are going to at least be improved to. I still think the Bears look if they all executed well at the offensive line does what they need to do and protect Justin Fields and Justin Fields takes a step forward as a passer, there's no reason why I don't see this Bears team to be a 7 to 8 game winner at least in a division that's well, that could be run by the Lions a little bit because, like I said, I still can't trust the Vikings. I mean, who does want to at least have trust Kirk Cousins under center year year in and year out? But what's good, Taj? So shout out to some Giants fans coming in because we'll talk about the Giants because I've been actually really liking what I've seen because that's a team that I kind of really a franchise that I think just always gets hated on. Well, besides the Dallas Cowboys, but they always gets hated on. Um, but with the Bear going back to the Bears though, playing it, I guess you can make the argument that the NFC North is a little bit wide open. Because I think the Green Bay Packers are going to take a bit of a step backwards because you don't know they don't even know what they have in Jordan Love, who's been set behind Aaron Rodgers for 3.5 years. This in his fourth, and right now in his fourth year in the league, first year starting. I mean, you got Christian Watson, who's a solid receiver. Romeo Dobbs is also solid as well. But it's just like, you got a decent head coach in Matt LaFleur, but that's just pretty much about it. I mean, the defense is okay. What's going to YTC? But yeah, like I still can't trust the Vikings. I still think that's a fluke. That team's always going to be fluky for me. I mean, I still think they're going to be a 10+ game winner, but I don't think they're going to win 13 games. I mean, if you're lucky, I would say probably 11-6 or 12-5. That's pretty much about it. Damien, you ain't fucking wrong because it really that's the one thing that's always where it's not just Kirk Cousins as under center. Also, Taj pretty much so Seahawks type of vibes. Oh, it's gonna be one. Okay, I mean we'll have to wait and see how they all put it together. But going back to what I said about the Vikings, and yeah, and good point from YTC. It also depends on Jordan Love as well. And to be quite honest, I still think, with the Vikings, look, it's got some talent as well, mostly on the offensive side. But their defense and their secondary is, well, for the lack of better term, is not that great. And you had an opportunity, and the Vikings had an opportunity to re-bolster that secondary. And part of that defense, it's like, and you go, look, Zay Addison, I think, is a nice little addition. He needs another wide receiver, which is nice. But I don't know. I don't know about the Vikings. But in terms, but yeah, it's like that NFC North is going to be interesting to watch. Jay Cutler, boy. You know what? I'm with you, YTC. I do think they're going to be at least, obviously, at least if you're at best right now, if they executed properly, probably at least 10, 11 wins. I don't think they're going to be that bad as, RC. I wouldn't say the Lions are mid, but it also depends if they can put it together. Now, if all four teams can't put it together in that division, one can make the argument, yeah, it's a disappointing division. But right now, as it stands, the two divisions that are disappointing as it stands is the AFC South and the NFC South. Speaking of the NFC South, boy, Tampa Bay fans. I think Tampa Bay fans are going to have if you ask me who's going to have it worse, I want to see Tampa Bay. Yeah, the Lions are going to surprise some people, sure. But I do think they're going to win the division, but let's be real, not by much, I would say, because it depends. Like I said, it depends on the execution of the other teams in that division in terms of the NFC North. Whereas if we had teams like the NFC, so that's That's interesting. So YTC goes with Taylor Heineke's going to take Desmond Ritter's starting job. Yeah, RC, yeah. Tampa Bay is going to go on a, well, oh, ay, ay, ay. That's my thing. Look, for me, I've been a longtime Birds fan for years. But if you're a Tampa Bay fan, you got. I swear, I don't think Tampa Bay fans are going to have. I can definitely see the Falcons winning that division because look, pick up Jesse Bates, you picked up Calais Campbell to help with that defensive end of the defensive end of the football. Yeah, the quarterback play is not the greatest, but I think if Taylor Heinicke does somehow get the starting job, he's a solid quarterback. I would say Cowboys, they're always going to be a 12. They're always going to be over 11 wins easy. Look, I even said in my power rankings video with the Dallas Cowboys. Look, bias aside, I still think the Dallas Cowboys are still one of the deepest teams in football. I look, I'm going to be flat out. I'm just going to flat out admit it. Yeah, because Dallas will always be like a 12-win team. Sometimes it can be 13 wins. But also, it depends, how do I put this? Obviously, definitely, yeah. Look, not actually, go back to the Vikings. Yeah, and I'm with Arku on this one. It depends. Not just what happens in the postseason. It's always down the stretch is where the biggest problem lies with the Dallas Cowboys, because I think when it comes to December to January in that month time frame, Dallas just seems to somehow just shrivel up. I know that's a weird phrasing, but bear me, because I've seen this the last few years, even during our Super Bowl run. It's like Dallas somehow, when the lights are shining the brightest on them, they just seem to kind of just not do it. I don't think Tampa, boy, that you're not really asking much out of Kyle Trask nor Baker Mayfield. See, I mean, look, yeah, it's like it kind of just puts kind of more of the spotlight on, look, the Cowboys, look, as talented as they are, at times you have to wonder, like, can it be the coach? Is it really Dak? Is Dak really the problem? Like, there's a lot of question marks that do surround the Cowboys sometimes come December. But when you look at it from like I would say September to October or November, I'm an idiot. I would say you always have good stretches during those months. Once December rolls around for some reason, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like that's what I'm with YTC. Like it's always like a rinse and repeat cycle with the Dallas Cowboys. Either it's obviously if Jerry Jones, it just seems like Jerry Jones is trying to recreate what was it, the 19. Oh God, I wouldn't say Dak is part of the problem, but I think the biggest problem is actually going up to the owner itself, because he's trying to recreate those 90s Cowboys teams where in a modern era, it's just like, it's not going to be the same. I want to say, well, Dak, like I said, is always going to be a portion of the problem, but if you look at the bigger picture, it's Jerry Jones, for Christ's sakes. And Arco, like I said, I'm not saying that's out of bias, but you tell me all the goddamn time, every time when I come up here, it's always Jerry Jones and his geriatric his geriatric brain decides to try to recreate what the 90s. It really is, and that's the thing too. Like people are trying to make Kirk to be like a very awesome quarterback, but in reality, he's average at best. You got to think of the competition, and look at the competition he played against last year at times. And we. Yeah, practice is practice for me. Like if he somehow, let's just say hypothetically puts that into the regular season, yeah, I think that's a conversation in itself to be had. Like, how much longer can you really rely on Dak when you have to? Uh, YTC. That's when I saw this. You know what? I really didn't think much of it because, like, it's just teammates talk trash all the time, and it's like, what else is new? But now I think at that time, I think people were just blowing that way out of proportion because, like I said, look, bias is like Bias aside, though, like I said, I'm not just saying this out of bias because, like, oh, that's our division rival and all this shit, basically. Um, yeah, yeah, I'm with you. Yeah, or YTC, I do agree with that. And now it's going to be interesting to see how this really turns out because um it really I mean it really does depend on how everything has become executed. And you know I mean, look, you can't I can't disagree with that. But now my thing is, like I said, there's a lot of some interesting seasons for a lot of teams that are, have some obviously not super high expectations, but high enough to that, it'd be like an improvement expectations is the way I look at it. If you're, let's just say if you're, I mean, I think Jets right now, if you're talking about the team that has like ceiling high expectations, it's got to be the New York Jets. Cause I would say, oh, you got Rodgers, you brought in Alvin Lazard, Randall Cobb. The way I look, and and that's the thing too. Like I always call them like the New York Packers because every time, whenever you knew as soon as Aaron Rodgers went to the Jets, you knew he was going to get his guys and Allen Lazard and Randall Cobb. Yes, I think the Jets are doing it. Yes, got rid of pretty. Yeah, you know, Jets, Broncos. Yeah, boy, Broncos. Like I said, I still. God, it's kind of weird how I feel on them a little bit. Because it's like it's kind of like you got an improvement in the head coach, but you have a guy in Russell Wilson that most of his teammates kind of fucking hate. So the way that I look at it is it's like if Russell does not damn Taj, that's rough. That's tough. That is tough, I would say. But regardless, so going back to you know what? And that's a very good point too. Like if I was an Eagles fan, I would definitely be I would definitely would more side with with the Giants because like they don't want to get their shit in trouble. Well, and not like you said, and that's why you know how I do improve like the Giants front office a little bit because look, let's say if there's any drama or controversy, that is true. It's not just from Rodgers, but they also got his former teammates from Green Bay. Al Lazard's now there for 4 years. You got Randall Cobb on a 1 year deal. You still got Garrett Wilson over there. I mean, you got a really nice defense, but if you really, because that's the one thing too. Like in terms of the AFC East, I still got the Bills are still going to repeat division winners. I still don't have that much faith in the Jets because let's be real, it's the Jets. No matter who the quarterback they have under center. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Sauce Gardner really showed out to why he came as advertised as one of the best cornerback prospects of his draft class, and rightfully so. It did show out as defensive rookie of the year. That's the way how everything pretty much turns out. I think it's and speaking of that too, with the Jets, I do like their defense, but the one thing that always yeah, well, I think Detroit at times they do have a reason. I mean, Detroit does get a lot of hype, and sometimes for obvious reasons. Like they're a team that, well, let's be real, have really been. Yeah, that's the one thing. Yeah, good point by Todd, and shout out to Todd on this point right here. Yeah, the O line, well, it's not the greatest. It really hasn't really been. I appreciate that. Like I said, we have because it really it. Not because, like I said, with all the stuff. I mean, if you look, the NFC East is good. Besides if you're a Commanders fan, that's kind of different because I mean, look, I think the Giants are. Yeah, it's unproven, that's for sure. But going back to the NFC East, though, I think it's still one of the best divisions in football in terms of the NFC. Because like I said, the NFC West is kind of wide open. Same with the AFC South or the NFC South. I apologize. And I guess one can make the argument with the NFC North, but we all in reality think the best conference in the NFL has been for for the last, let's say, handful of years. It's definitely the AFC because he always had better, quarterback play, better talent coming over there. But when you really look at it, you have like two good teams, two of the best teams. So, talk ish me. Look, I think. Well, it depends. You got to look at the numbers too. Like if let's say if Andrew Thomas has better numbers than Mekhi Becton, yeah, one can make the argument in terms of and question and also I think Mekhi Becton always had a bit of an injury history as well. Quinn Williams, the fact I don't know if he ever hold up for a contract section, so I really can't really put my answer to that. Now, the one thing I didn't really have written up on here was the fact that which quarterbacks do have a lot of pressure coming into this year. One can make the argument, definitely Justin Herbert has a lot of pressure because, well, for one, because can he really win a playoff game under Brandon Staley? For me, absolutely not. It's sad. I'm not saying it's sad to say, and I'm not hating on Justin Herbert, but for me, it's like coaching where my problem lies with the Chargers. Boy, you ain't kidding. I see. Trust me, I've watched a lot of videos going around, and Jets fans, boy, if you're talking about one of those fans that I do think that's, well, for a lack of a better term, haven't really seen really much. I mean, think about it, your only best franchise quarterback you ever had. Well, back then was Broadway Joe Namath. Even though, let's be real, when you look at his numbers, and compared to today's standards, his numbers right now currently are average to because that's the thing. Like, what you see to punch on that point too, because yes, they're not hopping up Zach Wilson because nobody, even myself included, like nobody has known who the hell Zach Wilson really was. It was either Trevor Lawrence or Justin Fields here right now was your current top two quarterback prospects. Yeah, I mean, the Jets does not have a great track record with quarterbacks. I mean, with the ones that I remember in the most, in most of my time is when I get a chance to see him was either Mr. Butt Fumble with Mark Sanchez. I mean, look, you fucked up Sam Darnold for 4 years, and he still hasn't really been the same. It hasn't. Oh shit! How do I forget? I mean, you brought in old washed up old fart Brett Favre for one season. Boy, didn't do too well. The Jets is such confusion. Yeah, I think no one's going to take the Jets seriously. That's why it's kind of funny because myself and a lot of, the fact that, it's the fact that because not just myself, but even my buddy Key, who actually coined an acronym for the Jets, just end the season because nothing goes right for the Jets. You would think, because if you looked at last year, you would have to think for a team that actually could have made the playoffs, but somehow collapsed as quickly as they did. It really is mind boggling to the fact that, it is kind of crazy at the same time. But like I said, in terms of the quarterbacks who had the most pressure, obviously, like the really that has the most pressure on their shoulders right now, I would say Justin Herbert, for one, because I still think, the one thing he still has to prove, can he win a playoff game? Because after if you looked at last year, you were up, what was it, like 27-0 at the half, and yet completely choked, it just pretty much just threw up the white flag, basically. It really is. If you look back to that playoff game, like the Jags were nowhere to be found for most of in that first half. But when it comes to when that second half came along, was the fact that like Brandon Staley, the fact that Brandon Staley still has his job is beyond me. The fact that this dude, for me, I think most of NFL fans could agree that Brandon Staley should have been fired. Even I'm no personal Chargers fans personally. My buddy Jake Silva, who's has been a Chargers fan for a long time, he knows that Brandon Staley, isn't really just the guy to really lead this franchise. I mean, think about it. It's the coaching could be an issue. I mean, that entire defense, who was for me, I think was in a way, obviously, it was kind of overhyped a little bit. Getting Khalil Mack, J.C. Jackson, who couldn't stay healthy, and obviously, when it's the off the field issues, but that's besides the point. It's just, I don't really. It doesn't really like the Chargers. I still think they're going to be a decent team, but my thing is like, how much longer is the Chargers going to realize to maybe not to hang on around, keep Brandon Staley around? Because honestly, this should be the year where he is fully on the hot seat. Now, the way I say it is because if he doesn't really make the playoffs, or if he does and somehow does not win a playoff game again, it's time for the Chargers to fire his ass. Because for the love of God, like the Chargers fans, boy, they sometimes make their voices known most times than not, just because it's been kind of it's just crazy. But another guy I would say that has a little bit of pressure as well, probably Aaron Rodgers, because yes, I know it's kind of weird to say, a veteran quarterback of, I would say, Aaron Rodgers, say, oh, he's been there, done that. But the one thing that I would say he does have a bit of pressure was the fact that, can he actually not, really can't choke away games? And can he not choke in the playoffs? Because, to be quite honest, I still don't think the Jets are going to be, they're going to be decent, but I don't think they're going to be as good as people are going to be making them out to be. And, boy, I would say Dak's probably going to be another guy that has a little bit more pressure, because if he can't really, and that's the thing too. Robert Saleh ain't doing jack squat. Yeah, so I do agree with that, Taj. Because first of all, a lot of times we've seen some defensive-minded head coaches not really work out, but you always get that rare few that actually will put it all together. I mean, I mean, and sometimes it either could be, and well, we have to wait and see. But the one thing I do think, because like, and to Boston, to really add to your point, that we're like, it could be, it could be really interesting. Can be seen as well. Now, the one thing I did kind of post, kind of had down in my notes, like, can really Justin Herbert really take a step forward and actually become better than what he's shown? In a way, like, okay, so that's gonna be like a two-parter. The way I will phrase that. In a one, yes, I do think he's going to take a bit of more of a step forward, but the no parts, like, I don't think he's going to win a playoff game. Like I said, under Brandon Staley and that coaching staff, I really don't think so. And that's where I think, because I think people really overhype Justin Herbert as, you know, in a way. No, talent wise, yeah, I think Herbert's definitely a top 5 quarterback, easy. But he hasn't really shown. I mean, at best, I mean, right now, the way how he's showing, especially for most of the year, especially going to last year, he kind of plays like a top 10 quarterback most times than not. Because look, the coaching, and you got to think of the situation too. Under a shitty head coach, the coaching staff isn't really that great. Good old line, decent receiving core, with a couple of guys that are on prove it in Quentin Williams or Quentin Johnson, or I think it might have been Quentin Johnson from TCU. He's well, you gotta see, because he's not really really, you got an unproven rookie in Quentin Johnson. You got Mike Williams, who, the way I look at it, is the kind of guy that can't stay healthy worth a fucking damn. Well, that's besides the point. But there's going to be a lot of other teams, quarterbacks. You could probably make the argument that they could have a lot of pressure on their shoulders. Yeah, I mean, Hurts is definitely one of them. Can he, replicate what he did? Which I do believe he will. I think he's the kind of guy that whose work ethic is, he really does try to put in the work and really help this team better, for a guy that, second round pick back in 2020, and that's really didn't really see much at the time. In the eyes of most Eagles fans, we were skeptical of why we drafted the quarterback in the second round. But at the time, we really didn't know that with all the shit going on with Carson Wentz at the same time. And I really do think, Hurts has really took some leaps and bounds, you know, since then, since 2020. Yes, getting thrown into the fire, what I think the four games of that 2020 season, which a lot of Eagles fans want to forget as a whole. But yet, and going into 2021, people think, it's like, the dude, like, we're not still high on Hurts. Because like, yeah, I mean, played 4 games, like it's a very short sample size. Like the dude still trying to get to it, adapted from the college level to the professional level. And yes, his mechanics and stuff like that. Like the work ethic still pretty much stayed the same, pretty much. But people like even myself included, I will actually hold my hand up that I have doubted Jalen Hurts. Like, can he really? And seen a lot of people say, he's not the franchise guy. And going into 2023, it's well, I do think, I think it's safe to say Jalen Hurts. I think the Eagles did see why they took Hurts as a second rounder, because with some of these fifth year options are, let's be all fucking lucrative in some cases, you know, and gave Jalen Hurts what he's shown to be worth. And I do think Hurts is definitely going to be even better than what he was in 2022. But like I said, I mean, he's going to have a little bit of pressure, but not tremendous pressure as a fact, trying to get replaced. And yes, I would say, like I said, yeah, we all know that Russell Wilson does have a lot more pressure on his shoulders, especially now he's like, you have an opportunity to improve under Sean Payton. Because if Sean Payton can't, you know, change or bring out the old Russell Wilson, I think that's just on Wilson himself. I'm sorry. That's the way I look at it. That's the way I looked at it. Um, even if you look at last year, sometimes I kind of think he purposely kind of just really, played piss poor just to get Nathaniel Hackett fired. Maybe that's what maybe I'm probably just probably the one crazy one. I mean, that few minority that kind of thought that way. But I really do think there's going to be a lot of teams and some players that do have a lot of pressure going into 2023. Like I said, the biggest pressure I see in terms of teams, no, I would say the Chargers is one of them. Definitely, I would say make the argument for the Jags. Like, can they really repeat as division champs? That remains to be seen. Especially, can T-Law take another step forward? Because I still think last year really showed me that I think T-Law can be a top 10 QB in this league. But it's just I want to see more consistency from him, especially under a guy like Doug Peterson, who does really wonders with quarterbacks. But regardless, it's going to be interesting to see what this 2023 season holds. Now, for those who are asking, who's my disappointment team of the year? It's got to be the Arizona Cardinals. Let's be real; they've always been a disappointment for years. Like, I mean, if you go back to those 2000 Cardinals teams, yeah, I mean, as bad as they were, they had some decent talent. Well, one guy in particular, Larry Fitzgerald, but ever since they could now, had an opportunity to win the Super Bowl with Larry Fitzgerald on their roster, it's the Cardinals fan, the Arizona Cardinals fans. That franchise has been nothing but a shallow disappointing. For a team that, well, this has a lot of losingest seasons in franchise history. And that's not really saying much, because I still think, you know, originally when I did my power rankings video, which if you have not, for those who have not checked it out, I think they were going to be more worse than the Chicago Bears. And that's not really saying much, because I think so the way I said that, the way I made that point was, we'll get to I think Patriots are going to be slightly disappointing, but I don't really think they're going to be as good as people are making them out to be, because look, and you still got, and there's been talks that Bill Belichick being on the hot seat. There's, I do think they're going to be slightly disappointing. I still think they're going to have a decent season, but not terrible like the Arizona Cardinals, who I still think, on paper, I mean, with Jonathan Gannon, your head coach, I mean, the coaching staff, that's really, I think, the greatest. Kyler Murray being out for most of the year, probably going to sit him for the rest of the year and heal up. To be quite honest, like I said, if I had to put a record on the Cardinals, if for going in this year, I think they may. I think they either be what 3-14, 2-15 on a bad day. I still think boy, I still don't think that the Arizona Cardinals are as well. It's going to take a while for them to actually be any type of relevant in the NFC West because let's be real, that's kind of where they belong. They're just the basement dwellers to teams like San Francisco, Seattle. Who else am I missing? And yeah, even the Rams, I know they're going to be a little bit disappointing as well at the same time, which I do think the Rams are a little bit better than the Cardinals, but I still don't think that the Cardinals are. It's I don't think the Cardinals are going to be. It's going to take for a long time for them to actually show me they can actually be good again. Because right now, Arizona is for me always be a pathetic franchise. And if I had, TRL, my boy TRL will probably would test me on that. But it is, and I think let's be, I will flat out, I will definitely would admit that Kyler Murray is kind of been overrated because I think because of his size and shit like that, whatever. Like, for me, I could care less because the Cardinals. If you're talking about the most dysfunctional franchises, they're one of them. I would say they were one of them. And I definitely would say, if you're telling me who else is the dysfunctional franchise in the NFL besides the Arizona Cardinal, it's I would probably say probably that's kind of really hard to say because outside of Arizona, it's like it's not really saying much because Arizona is just so bad year in and year out. I mean, shit, you had that one undefeated season starts like okay, maybe they actually can actually kind of show me something to be good. And then here we go with them and getting blown out of against the Rams. And obviously, I think that was the same year the Rams went on to win the Super Bowl that year. And well, let's just be real, that's the last time you actually had a team like the Cardinals who, well, it hasn't really. It's so just it's ridiculous, and it's really crazy the fact that you had to go through Josh Rosen after 2018. Boy, that was a huge mistake of a pick that I've ever seen. With Steve Wilkes getting fired, I remember if I remember correctly. Getting Cliff Kingsbury, who was not that much better, even though I know Steve Wilkes didn't really get the opportunity that he truly deserved, or he just was not given a chance for. And yeah, and under us, the Raiders ain't doing jack squat with Jimmy G as quarterback because Jimmy G can't fucking stay healthy and shit like that. It's not just from the quarterback perspective, but it's also the defense is where the problem lies too with the Raiders. Mostly in that secondary is where my problem lies with the cornerback depth, the linebackers, and that type of secondary. It's bad. Look, I would say bad's an understatement for the Cardinals. I think the Cardinals are just hot trash. I'm sorry. I think that team. I mean, if you're lucky on a good day, could probably produce a 4-13 season once again. But realistically, I think this team could be at least 3-14. Like, I'm sorry, I don't think they're going to be winning more than 4 games. And if they somehow win more than 4 games, I was like, really? But then again, it depends on who they're playing. And obviously, the car, boy, it's kind of man, it kind of sucks for anyone any people who are Arizona Cardinals fans because I mean, you had an opportunity to win a Super Bowl what 2 decades ago, um, which was not really. That's kind of crazy when you look at it. How that team actually had a really good team, but really looking at how currently the last few years. I mean, look, then again, as Eagles fans, we just want to see Jonathan Gannon just fail. But yeah, I know TRO would probably agree with that, but I don't think TRO would care because I trust me, I've seen how he feels with this Cardinals, and he knows how bad they're going to be because you go from a guy like Steve Wilkes who didn't really last a season. What's going on, Key? With Wilkes not lasting a season, you go through Josh Rosen's starting quarterback, even though that's a big miss in terms of quarterback play. Now, yes, you did rectify it with Kyler Murray, but who hasn't really shown me to be that number one overall pick at times, or most of the time, anyways. And under Cliff Kingsbury, bringing his air raid offense from Texas Tech, even though let's be real, Cliff Kingsbury didn't really do much to the chagrin of a lot of Cardinals fans, and rightfully so, decides to get fired after 4 years. Lesborough should have been a lot sooner, but that's the way I look at it. But really looking at the ultimate disappointment. Right now, we know that the Cardinals are going to be the ultimate disappointment in terms of the NFL. Because, like I said, I will stand on this hill. I do think this team could. If I really had to see how this team could be terrible under Jonathan Gannon, which let's be real, cannot wait. Most Eagles fans want to see Jonathan Gannon, fail as a head coach. Um, Realistically, I think this team can go, like I said, worse as 2-15. Actually, you know what? Scratch that. I think the worst thing, if I could see the worst floor I could see for the Arizona Cardinals, obviously, I don't think they're going to even get it. I think they may go 0-16. I think they may somehow go with an 0-16 season. And that's not really saying much. I mean, ceiling wise, definitely 3 to 4 game type of season, like a 3-14 or a 4-13. That's it's either way, you're not really putting much on the Arizona Cardinals for 2023. Like I said, I don't think that team's going to be good. Look, unless that team stays bad for, let's just say, for about 5 years, and they really cannot get together. Quite honestly, it's kind of sad to see a team like Arizona, who could have, like I said before, who had an opportunity over 2 decades ago to win a Super Bowl with Larry Fitzgerald as their quarterback. At 2-15, I would say, if they somehow avoid a losing season, because I mean, actually, speaking of which, let me see, take a look. Yeah, I could definitely see that. It's, oh boy, the Arizona. Let's look at their 2023 schedule, because I bet they ain't gonna really do much. And well, so go to the Cardinals. I don't see. Look, I can see the Cardinals beating the Rams, but the Browns, that's up in the air. That's a coin toss. That's 50-50. Ravens, I don't think the Cardinals are beating the Ravens. I really don't think so. I don't think they have the talent to really beat it. I mean, look, four so 4-3. Like I said, I think overall, I think it's gonna be a 4-13 season, but if they somehow, because right now they open up against the Washington Commanders. Week 2 is at the Giants. Oh boy. Weeks 3, 4, and 5. Yeah, that's a rough stretch for Cardinals fans. You got to play the Cowboys week 3, the Niners week 4, Bengals week 5. Should be an easy win, but somehow if you lose to the Rams, that's that's concerning. As I will say, that will be concerning. Seattle, well, we have to wait and see. We have to wait and see how this entire season goes, or how the Cardinals execute their season. Week 7, you got the Seattle Seahawks. Week 8, you got Baltimore, then Cleveland. I do think they're gonna. Boy, I think they're gonna get their ass whooped by Atlanta. That's the way how I feel about it. And week 10, week 11, they got the Texans. They got to play the Rams again on week 12. Then the Steelers week 13. Have a bye week at 14. They got to play the Niners again. Bears week 16. Week 17, they got to play us, and I think they're going to get their ass whooped like the last time. Even though I will say last year we did. Well, yeah, we didn't really whoop their ass badly. And they finish up with Seattle in week 18. So overall, in terms, I think they're going to take a tough. I'll say taking a tough L against the Commanders and the Giants. I think they may take a win against the Giants week 2, so that's even 1-1 right there. So from weeks 3 to 5, that's 3 straight losses. That's 1-4. Rams, it depends on who their quarterback is as well. I do think maybe they can put out a win, but I'm not really. I don't have high hopes. In my honest opinion, I think that's a loss. That's 1-5 right there. Seattle, if Gino does not, and that's another thing too. In terms before we go further with the Cardinal schedule, another quarterback has a little bit of pressure on him. I think it's Geno Smith. Can he really replicate what he did last year? For me, I don't think he will. I think that was just a kind of a fluke season where, yeah, boy, it's not really saying much after post Russell Wilson, but I mean, if he shows he can do it again, and that says enough for me. But I think overall, I think the Cardinals will. I think they will take a slight win over the Seattle Seahawks. I think that's going to be. I think they can definitely take a bit of a win. Then again, it's a road in Seattle. So actually, I might change that to. Yeah, that's an interesting point. I forgot about the Bosa situation. Oh yeah, he is definitely. I'm with you, Taj. Like I said, I think that's last year was kind of a fluke. I'm thinking to myself, like the dude's been around since 2013 and had never has that kind of season until he is the fact that Geno Smith's been around and been in the league for over a decade. Yes, I know, not really the greatest career by any stretch of the means in terms of um, Geno's standards, but the fact that he all of a sudden busts out a 3 to 4,000 yard type of season, and almost a 40 touchdown was a 35 to 40 touchdown season. Like I don't think that for me that's a fluke. So I still think the Cardinals are going to take a bit of a loss to Seattle because it is in Seattle. It's I'll say this too: if somehow the Niners somehow lose to Arizona, I'm not saying that's a concern, but it makes you question why. Baltimore, I think that's a loss right there. If everything goes well for the Baltimore Ravens, both not just defensively, but it's more so offense than anything else. Yeah, that's not really saying much. What's going on, Adam? What is going on, Adam? Um, they lost. Yeah, they did. Like I said, I mean, and the preseason. Well, like I said, no one really cares about the preseason, so if we scratch that. Like I said, Washington, I can see them taking the L. Giants, like I said, it depends on how everything goes. I still think I have the Giants get. What? Actually, screw this. I'm going to actually redo this. Washington week 1, I do think they're going to take a loss on that. Giants, I thought that's an automatic loss for the Cardinals because let's be real. I think in terms of if you look at the talent difference, I'm actually more siding with the Giants than anything else. And in terms of quarterback play, that's not really saying much, but I have to side with Daniel Jones a little bit as well. But yeah, that's 0-2 right there. Yeah, they're gonna go 0-5 in the first 5 weeks. That's terrible with Dallas, San Francisco, and that's the thing too. Like I said, anything can happen, but I still think San Francisco is gonna blow the doors off Arizona, and same with Cincinnati. So right then and there, your first 5 weeks for any Arizona Cardinal fans, that's 0-5 is my prediction. Week 6, that could be a toss up because the Rams are not that much better either. So you're at SoFi. Um, I definitely could see them pulling out a slight win. So that's their first one of the year in week 6. Well, week 7, 8, and 9, could see a loss in Seattle, a slight loss in Baltimore. If Baltimore doesn't choke away fourth, then again, that also depends if Baltimore doesn't want to choke away fourth quarter games. So choke in the fourth quarter. So that's another situation in its own right. Cleveland, boy, you do play in Cleveland. I still think they're going to take a loss on that. So overall, first 5 weeks, you have 0-5. They get a win. Barely get a win in Los Angeles. You'll be 1-5. You'll be 1-6 by weeks after when you take the lose to Seattle. Baltimore, like I said, go because Baltimore could be a loss. However, if the Baltimore Williams, yeah, that's true. I forgot about May, but it's mostly Caleb Williams who that's kind of where it's at this point. But with the Baltimore Ravens, which I did talk about this last year, and I kind of tore him to a bit in earlier, I think a few times on this show, whereas they have really shown to the fact that they can't have a hard time closing out games. And it's kind of the fact that, yeah, you don't have Lamar. I mean, I don't know, Mark Andrews can be regressing and stuff like that. You got OBJ, that's not really saying much. So if somehow Baltimore does not choke in the fourth quarter, which they have done a lot last year, that's another loss right there. That's probably 1-8, or actually no, yeah, 1-7. I'm an idiot. I can't do math. Week 9 depends on who you're asking. Like, you know, got Miles Garrett on the defensive end. You got a decent defense with the Browns, but I still think the Browns will actually pulling out a win. So that's pretty much 0-5, one win. That's it's 1-5, 6, 7, 8. So overall, that's going to be 1-8. Boy, I think the Falcons are going to blow the doors off the Cardinals. That's 1-9. Actually, wait a minute. So 0-5. So 1-5, 6, 7, 8. Yep, 1-9. Texans. Oh, well, here's the thing with the Texans. Like I said, it depends what CJ Stroud is going to be looking like this season. Can Jalen Petrie stay healthy? Can Derek Stingley Jr. stay healthy? Can most of that defense actually try to stay healthy? And can Kenyon Green, and I think, can Kenyon Green as a left guard can actually take a step forward? But hey, who am I to say? But I still think if all that goes to plan with the Houston Texans, everyone stays healthy, and Kenyon Green takes a step forward as a left guard, that's a loss right there. So that's 1-10. I think they're going to split with the Rams. So that's 1-11. Pittsburgh, looking at remember the roster correctly, Kenny Pickett, it's not really much to say. Then again, you have Mike Tomlin, but that's going to be interesting to watch. So right now, that's kind of to be, and then I think they're going to pull out I think they're going to take a loss on that. So that's 1-12 before the bye in week 14. And the last stretch of games after the bye week 15. No, I think they're going to get swept by San Francisco. That is 1-12. Bears. If you looked at both talents compare them, I think the Bears are taking this one at Soldier Field. That's 1-13. Actually, no, once. Okay, I'm doing some math here wrong. So hang on. So overall, I think they might be. Let's say just fuck math, but I think they're going to be 1-16. Look, worst case scenario, if they somehow can always just manage one win, quite honestly, it's a possibility they may either go one win or maybe no wins at all. If they somehow yes, I know they're definitely going to get swept by 49ers. That's kind of a given. Let's be real. The talent is, it's San Francisco's got much better talent than the Arizona Cardinals. But overall, I think it could be 1-16. Because right now the first 5 from like weeks 3 through 5, that's a tough stretch of games because you're going against 3 good teams in San Francisco in week 4, Dallas in week 3, and then you got Cincinnati in week 5. And the Bucs, well, I got no faith in the Bucs. And like I said, I think if you're going to ask me who's going to win that NFC South, I would originally I had potentially Carolina if everything goes well, but I do think it's going to be Atlanta taking that division. And here's why. Look, you picked up Jesse Bates III, who was one of the top free agent safeties, in this past offseason. Now, yes, the quarterback play, one can make the argument is a bit of a question mark. Like, we don't know, can Desmond Ridder and Derek Carr at times can be very inconsistent, and that Saints team, well, Saints can make a put. It can, I know most people can not going to, say you're going to have no faith in Carr, but really look at the team around him, though. Then again, you got injury prone Michael Thomas. You just brought Cam Jordan back to a 2-year extension. You're overpaying the living hell out of Taysom Hill, who's now going to be playing quarterback for whatever fucking reason. But that being said, it's like, and it's also too, can Dennis Allen really do much with that team who, let's be real, hasn't really been the same. And like I said, I think this all stems the fact after when Drew Brees retired from the Saints, like the Saints hasn't really been the same. It's kind of hard to really, in fact, they had to look for a different franchise quarterback besides Drew Brees. And in a way, one can make the argument you kind of a bit of a downgrade from Drew Brees and Derek Carr, who's okay. at best, but it's just like, how much can you really rely on a guy like Carr? You know what I'm saying? But I'm with you on that, Demon. That's the one thing I would definitely agree on that. That's for sure. But but more to the fact that, yeah, so you have two teams. I think one can make the argument, can make a push to win that NFC South. It could be either Atlanta or New Orleans. Now, if somehow New Orleans cannot, get it all done, then I guess you could say one can make the argument that, yeah, I think, overall, I think that, trading, getting a guy like Carr was kind of big. Not saying a mistake, but to the point whereas, like, it's kind of hard to replace a guy like Drew Brees. And yeah, it's not good. If you're a Saints fan, but we'll see how this all goes. Um, but that being said, last and final thing I want to talk about was how is Lamar Jackson going to look going into 2023? Now, one, like I said, like for me, I think he's still going to I think he's going to start out be a little bit rusty. Like he's coming off a knee injury, also holding out at the same time for a contract extension. If he just really not really do much out of that, but besides that, if you really look at how this team is, they're like, if you looked at the Ravens the last handful of years, they're always known as like a defensive specialty. But that's the way how they pretty much run it over there in Baltimore. But regardless, I still think it is going to create. It'd be crazy to see, but regardless, so I do think they're going to try to at least be, well, in a way, you know, at least be decent, but I still think that AFC North is definitely the Bengals division to lose. Because I still think Pittsburgh is good, but I still think they're not. They still need a little bit more if they wanted to win the division. And same thing, I guess you could say with the Baltimore Ravens, because you know most of your offense has to go through Mark Andrews because you really don't really implement your wide receivers enough. And well, right now, I think Lamar Jackson. I think if I had to report defense, I mean, like I said, Carr isn't bad, but it's not to the fact that it's a bit of a, like I said, I will get back to um on Carr in just a bit. But with Lamar Jackson, though, it's Lamar is right now is a bit of a question mark right now going into this year. Like, how is he going to look coming off that PCL knee sprain? That remains to be seen. Now, going back to that conversation with Derek Carr as our final talking point was the fact that, yeah, I will definitely will say this. Derek Carr will never be another Drew Brees. Like I said, Drew Brees has given so much to that Saints organization during his time. But as soon as he retired, you actually have to, it's either because, like, yeah, granted, yes, one argument saying, yeah, you got big shoes to fill in Derek Carr, who is a true franchise guy in New Orleans. But at the same time, you're kind of downgraded to a guy that's, well, in a way, it's kind of the same mold, as I wouldn't go that far in Derek Carr because you got to think of and look, Derek Carr, in a way, one can make the argument he's not bad, but you got to look at the situation he's been placed in, especially during when he got drafted by the Raiders in 2014. Honestly, those Raiders teams were not that fucking great, and it's nothing what Carr can't do. I mean, that's the one thing that pretty much kind of people hold over his head a little bit or people say that he's bad, but it's like, you got to think it's too. Carr was a second round pick by the Raiders in 2014. And those teams, for lack of a better term, were just fucking horrible. Or, you have to go on John Gruden. You have to go with whoever else was fucking coaching the Raiders at the time. I mean, so seriously, like, if he had like better coaching and the better staff, well, Arco, trust me, I know how much you fucking that how much most of us Eagles fans laugh at him because we call him Mr. Clapper for whatever reason. But going back to what I said about Carr, it's like you got to think it's too what like the players around him wasn't that great. Let's you know, the what's it? The coaching at Lesborough was certainly not great, and and people still like try to hold that over Carr's head for him being terrible. Like if you had better coaching staff, and the better supporting cast around him, I think this conversation would be a little bit would it be a bit different than what we're having now with Derek Carr as the quarterback of the Saints. But I'm just going to leave it at that. That's kind of what my 2 cents is on that. Well, that being said, ladies and gentlemen, that is going to conclude the NFL Talk Podcast episode number 7. It's going to be fun. It's going to be interesting to see how this all comes about going forward to 2023. And you're going to see a different series of power rankings videos week in, week out throughout the NFL season. So it's going to be a lot of fun. You're going to definitely check those out. With that being said, if you guys new, make sure you hit that like button. Also hit that subscribe button. Also check out the merch shop, which is in the pinned comment above. We have a couple more promotions coming up as well for our merch shop. If you just want to support the main channel or the It's Rolling podcast, we do have merch for that. Check out sports and let me bring this up. Bring it up on screen. God, I got a lot of comments for today. But yeah, so check out sportsandwrestle.myspreadshop.com for all your for all your merch, wherever you want to get. But that being said, guys, appreciate tuning in into the show. And with that being said, can't wait for football and have a good rest of your day.